a crisis may hit close to home. And the first major crisis which hit my life was 22 years ago, when Hurricane Andrew hit South Florida and the eastern seaboard. Tragically, in Miami, there were over 50 deaths. There were 160,000 people who were temporarily homeless. I was nominated to head up this major rebuilding and relief effort. So I said yes. And in less than 24 hours, Neighbors for Neighbors was up and running. By the time we arrived in downtown Homestead, night had fallen, and it was pitch black. There was no electricity, obviously no stoplights. Suddenly, the police car in front of us came to a screeching halt. And the two police officers got out and met Miami-Dade police, and they said, there are criminal snipers on the roof. They're looting the stores. Well, the two police officers immediately opened the trunk of their car. They put on bulletproof vests, and I had gotten outside the bus with my friend Phil Goldfarb, and Phil looked at the police officers and he said, do you have two of those vests for me and my friend Chuck? Well, unfortunately, they didn't have any more bulletproof vests. We had a choice to make. Do we turn around and hightail it back to Fort Lauderdale, or do we carry on? And the choice I made was, we have people who do not have any food, water, and limited clothing. We're going to go on to Homestead High School. When we arrived at this makeshift shelter, there was over 200 tents outside the high school. And it was like a war zone. And when I stepped off the bus, I saw a woman. She was in her early 30s. She was an African-American lady. Her name was Yolanda. She had two children, one a 3-year-old boy, the other a 2-year-old daughter. And there was a look of fear in this woman's eyes that I'd never seen before in my entire life. So I got back up on the bus, I grabbed a couple of teddy bears, I gave them to Yolanda, and she said, thank you. Thank God you're here to give hope to my children. Well, that night we fed over 200 people. We provided water. We provided clothing. And it was the beginning of an effort which we would, that month, the first 30 days, have over 4,000 volunteers. We thought this was going to be a 2-month, 3-month effort. Well, 22 years later, we are still providing help. As a board of director for the Fort Lauderdale Chamber of Commerce, I became friends with a lady by the name of Stephanie Toothaker. And when Stephanie went on her interview at the law firm, the CEO was so impressed with her that the CEO offered to double her salary. But there was only one problem. When Stephanie was interviewing with this CEO, she had experienced the most disjointed conversation that she had ever had in her entire life. And when Stephanie was sitting there, something just didn't seem right. She then told this CEO, by the name of Scott Rothstein, that she was going to have to think about this. Her gut told her that something just was not right. To Stephanie's credit, she declined the job offer from Scott Rothstein in the law firm of Rothstein, Rosenfeld, and Adler. Fortunately, Stephanie avoided a $1.4 billion Ponzi scheme. Stephanie had made a choice based on her instincts, and not thinking about the money, not thinking about the short-term gain, she made a long-term choice which would end up being positive for her husband, for her newborn son, and for Stephanie personally. I had received a call from a potential client with an unusual assignment. The call came from a law firm in New York, and they were representing an entertainment company that was based out of Germany by the name of the Havana Night Broadway show. There were 52 performers who were stranded in Havana, Cuba. They were Cuban residents, and President Fidel Castro would not give them their visas to go and perform in Las Vegas. And the law firm had arranged trips for these performers in 14 countries. However, Fidel Castro was playing a political game and was holding up their visas. My assignment was to apply political pressure on Fidel Castro so that he would grant the visas and the performers would be able to come to the United States. President Fidel Castro buckled, and he agreed to give visas to the performers. So I paid for their 10 tickets, and then next up was myself. So I go to the counter and try to book a one-way ticket to Las Vegas, and the lady behind the counter says to me, Mr. Malkus, hold on one second. So, okay. And suddenly I look to my left. There's a half dozen FBI agents and Houston police officers. And Mr. Malkus, come over here. And I'm thinking to myself, I hope I haven't broken the law by bringing the Cubans to Houston. I had bigger problems. I had a one-way ticket. I had no luggage, and now I was changing my one-way ticket. So the FBI said to me, Mr. Malkus, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm here to help the Cubans. And they say, Mr. Malkus, what are you really doing? I go, well, hold on. First of all, I have the highest clearance with the United States government. So look in your computers and you will see that I have high security clearance as a civilian. Fortunately for me, as a result of Broward Navy days, I had 6 months prior came down from Virginia on the USS Bataan, and I had achieved high security clearance. So that volunteer experience with Broward Navy days not only saved my hide, but also allowed me to rejoin the Cubans who had no money, who had no place to stay, and were stuck waiting for me. By being involved with these types of community organizations, you not only get a great feeling, but there could come a point in time in your life where you'll have a good experience, one that you would have never have thought of.